when you go to university, when you read the books, you learn how to write as an art form, but actually you need to write as a business as well.
I sent out to about 20 agents, and all I could say was that I'd come back from film school. That was my kind of top thing. I'd been so I was in my sort of towards my late 20s, and I had been working up till I was 24, and then I'd gone to film school. So I'd kind of done it the other way around. So I was trying to get an agent, and everyone was saying nothing or no. And then I applied to Rocliffe, and you guys said yes. So that was a whole different ballgame. And then you guys had an agent who was reading for you. And that was how I got my first agent, because he loved the script. So he moved it on from there.
So I'm from Birmingham. So it was, if you know Birmingham, there's not much of an industry there at all. So it was pretty tricky trying to find my way in. So I came to London to go to film school. So I went to London Film School. After I finished there, I moved back home, and I was just trying to get my script out there. So I had an idea, which ended up being my winning Rocliffe script. Wrote that while I was looking for a job back home, entered the competition while working in a call centre, and here we are.
So I had done an MA in script writing, so I'd been a novelist before, and I thought it would be super easy to be a script writer, but it wasn't. So I did an MA for a couple of years part-time, which I absolutely loved. I loved going back to university as an older student. It was fantastic. And then I wrote my final adaptation piece called The Colour Room, which I was really happy with, and the lecturers absolutely pulled apart and said, nobody wants period, no one wants this, no one wants to hear about Stoke-on-Trent, for goodness sake. And then I put it in for BAFTA because someone recommended that I take part in BAFTA, and it won, and it got picked up straight after that, and it all took off from there. So, I owe Rocliffe everything, really. It was fantastic.
I went to drama school, and then was a sort of half in work, usually out of work, quite depressed actor, also working in a call centre and as a nanny and all of that kind of thing. And then I wrote 2 solo plays, one of which went on, and I got an agent from that, I think, and then did 4 screenwriting, wrote a script and applied to Rocliffe with that script. So in the same year, did 4 screenwriting and Rocliffe, and then sort of got busy from that. I got my Rocliffe script set up with the channel pretty quickly after that, Channel 4, and people came knocking more than they had been before. There was a sort of escalation, more offers. Actually, offers started coming through at that point. People kind of saying, we've got this, and sending like a deck or an idea or a novel and saying, would you like to come on as the sort of lead writer on that? And that hadn't really been happening before that at all, actually. And it was just easier to, if I wanted to meet someone, it felt like it was quite easy to just say I'd like to meet them and they wanted to meet, as opposed to like when I was an actor and I couldn't get it is weird. I couldn't get arrested. It's sort of just an ease. It opened a door, and suddenly it was like, oh, okay, there's a path forward in the industry.
Yeah, similar to Karen, people suddenly started wanting to read my stuff, whereas I'd been getting rejections before and just no replies in some cases. But after that, suddenly I had agents, producers reaching out, wanting to read my scripts. And I kind of took advantage of that. And I mean, the script I won was a comedy, and I'm not a comedy writer. So I very quickly said to every producer that came to me, this is what I want to do actually. Like, I can still do comedy, but this is mostly what I want to do, these kind of scripts, drama, sci-fi, all the kind of thing. And yeah, eventually it started, taking shape where I'd meet the right people, started getting offered the right work, and eventually my agent who took me on and propelled me even further forward. So I think the recognition is the main thing I got.
I think knowing how to write as a business. So when you go to university, when you read the books, you learn how to write as an art form, but actually you need to write as a business as well. You need to make sure that every actor has a good character, has a lot of time on screen. You need to work out, what financially this film can be capable of and not. So if I had walking down a London street in the 1920s and they were like, nope, you're not doing that. You just got to stay in a room, and that's only what we can do with the budget. So, you've got to write with business in mind.
You just keep learning as you go, I guess. I think after Rocliffe, like the hard work started, I suppose. Like once you're in, then it's like just keeping it up, keeping writing good ideas, keeping your spirits up with all the rejection. I was just thinking, don't forget to have a life, because that is something that you can really put on hold when you're writing, because it's takes so much of you to kind of make it, or even kind of get towards steps that sort of look like you're making it. And I mean, you work really, really, really hard, and then you can sort of fall flat on your face with exhaustion, and you have to kind of have something else going on in your life because that you give so much to the process. So
For me, it was a case of like finding the time to write. So I had 2 children and a career as well because I had to support myself. And so I would write from 5 a.m. till 7:30 in the morning, and then the children would get up. So then I'd be there at the breakfast, see them off to school. Then I would go to my job. And initially I started to write in the evenings. But I was just tired. I was spent from the day. You know, I'd done my day's work. I'd put the children to bed, and I was just really tired. So the best of me was 5 a.m. to 7:30, and it was really, really hard because I'm not a morning person at all. It was just hideous. So, you know, 5 to 5, the alarm would go off, and I would go downstairs. And for the first fortnight of doing that, I just stared at my laptop, just like, I just couldn't do anything at all. And then gradually, bit by bit, I did a bit of writing, and then, you know, 2 or 3 months in, I was fine. So 5 o'clock, I was writing, and I knew I had 2.5 hours, and that's all I had in the day. And when you do that, you work, and I love a deadline, you know, and I wrote better then than I write now when I have all the time in the world because I only had those 2.5 hours. So there's a lot to be said for that, you know, it helps you too.
Yeah, speaking on that, I'm still pretty young, in late 20s, so I don't really have anyone depending on me, no kids, no partner, no family. I've got family, but I live on my own. But I think for me, it's finding time in all that freedom to be regimented with everything. So I could, if I had too much freedom, then I could just let my deadlines creep up on me and not write anything. But I like to stick to a pattern, and that helps me to do my writing. That helps me to stay organized, essentially. So I try to go to the gym every single day, early in the morning. Then I come back and do my writing for a few hours. So that's how I kind of stick to everything and stay regimented. But it's about finding time, I think.
I think I'm kind of constantly inspired, I guess. I don't sort of run out of inspiration, but I do go deeper and deeper into research. So I kind of might start with an idea quite simple, and then I'll just read as much as I can around it, visit exhibitions around it, interview people. I'm doing something in the English Civil War at the moment, and they've got all the pamphlets from the time in the British Library, so going to see them. So I just find that I start somewhere and then I worm my way further in, and then it gets deeper and kind of more exciting. So I don't know if that's inspiration rather than research.
We have like enormous responsibility because people are watching our work, giving their lives, you know, for an hour or two or whatever, and we've got to make it right because we are writing black characters, white characters, men, women, and we're not all of those things, you know, and so when I write a black character, I want to feel that I've done my research and that I have positioned myself, that I can be as correct and honor them, you know, and not do them a disservice, you know. But I don't want to write about white middle-aged women and that's it, you know. I want to write about all sorts of people. So I think research is really, really important.
Is there anyone out there whose career you would love to have that you look at and you go, that's who I'd like to be, or that's where I'd like to get to?
Not so much that I want her career, because I don't think I could have it, because she's a very special person, but Michaela Cole's work, the sort of unflinching, authentic honesty, and how much she mines the depths of her own experience, but also the imagined experience. She's just a masterful storyteller and actor. Yeah. Oh, maybe I want to be an actor again. Yeah, but yeah, I think Michaela Cole is something else.
Claire Wilson?
I don't know if I have one particular. I'm really bad at this because I get sort of inspired by lots of different people's points in their lives or their journeys. I love Decision to Leave that I recently saw, and I've had a chance to work with Director Park, and I think he's amazing. I loved After Sun. I'm so excited to see Charlotte Wells' journey. So whenever you see sort of truth imagined, that's when I'm inspired. And sometimes someone has it throughout their career, and sometimes they have a kind of, you know, a few sort of bumps of it, and so that's sort of where I look.
Amir?
I'm not just saying this because I work with him, but Stephen Knight. I think the ability to sit with him in a writer's room, see his process, see his creative drive, that's been really inspiring. And you know, he's had a monster of a career so far, and he's not slowing down. So you know, he's the kind of writer that I look up to and would like to emulate going forward.
Claire?
Emma Thompson, I think she's an absolute inspiration. She's a force. She also took time out to look after her daughter, so she put family first when that needed to happen. But she just brings such a passion to every project, and now I think she said she was committing to doing only things that bring joy, and I love her sentiment.
for all the shows I've worked on, to be able to go into the room, I've had the first 2 episodes of every show. So 1,000 Blows, Stephen Knight's Sentence, 2 episodes. Criminal Record, I got the first 2 episodes from Paul Ruttman. Champion from Candice Carter-Williams, first 2 episodes. So just having that, being able to get into the world straight away with 2 episodes, getting to know the characters instantly really helps you visualize. And when you come to having the meeting with them and why should they take you on board, that really helps, because then you can really ask them questions about where they see the characters going, where they see the story going, and just come with your own curiosity, do your own research. I think that's a really crucial part of coming into the process. Just having them help you get into the story really helps.
And any one of you can answer this, but how do you keep your own voice in that room and go, actually, I don't agree with this, or what about if we take it here?
It does take a lot of courage. I mean, on 1,000 Blows, I won't say exactly what happened, but Stephen gave us a really out there idea for my episode in particular, and I had to tell him no. To be able to tell someone like that no was ballsy, I guess, and kind of nerve-wracking, but you've got to do it to be able to, I think, help them tell the story as well, because that's the reason you're in the room, is to give your take on everything, give your take on the characters, the story. That's why you're there, to help them to achieve their goal. And if you think sometimes they're going off kilter or going over there with the story, then you've got kind of reined them in. I think that's why it's a collaborative process, really, because everyone's there to do the exact same thing, and in the end, if you do your job right, you all end up on the same path towards the same goal.
Also, you're being paid to speak. Do you know what I mean? Because the showrunner already knows what their thoughts are, so you're not there to people please and politeness and parameters, but you are there to go, well, actually, from my perspective, this is a bit problematic, or I don't know if that quite is capturing the experience of a 16-year-old girl, or whatever it might be. Also, like, sometimes something that comes up is that you're asked to write something that just makes you morally uncomfortable. Like, I had this once on a script ages ago. It was the first ages ago, and there was a couple of slurs that were being thrown around. I was sort of being asked to write jokes based on these slurs. First of all, it was really prescriptive, and I was just so uncomfortable, but I had to find my voice. I was petrified that I was just, you have this fear of should I really be in TV? Should I be doing something else? It was all that. I'm getting over that, but it was all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and to find that voice of actually, I'm not writing this down. I won't do it. Now, you can't stop them from overwriting you and writing it anyway, and at the end of the day, it'll still have your name on it, and then it's a bit complicated, But yeah, holding on to your moral compass and not people pleasing to the point of losing your voice is important.